In a world forgotten by time, under a sun that offered no mercy, stretched a vast, silent desert, an endless sea of sand, where heat waves danced like ghostly apparitions, and the silence was so profound it felt like a scream. From above, the land was a canvas of fire, scorched and barren, a testament to desolation. But in the distance, a change was brewing. A storm of sand began to churn, a swirling vortex of dust and fury, and deep within the earth, a tremor started, a slow rhythmic pulse that grew stronger with each passing moment. The ground was not just shaking, it was awakening. From beneath the sun-baked crust, a colossus stirred sand cascaded away like water as a figure of unimaginable scale emerged into the light. This was Zarrok, a dinosaur of mythic proportions. His body, a mountain of muscle and bone, was draped in skin as hard and ancient as the very rock beneath him. He was a living titan, casting a shadow that swallowed the desert landscape. But as he blinked against the harsh sun, his eyes revealed a truth far removed from his terrifying form. They were pools of ancient sorrow, reflecting a loneliness that had spanned millennia. Looking up at him from the desert floor, one could only feel a sense of awe and insignificance, a creature lost in the immensity of his own existence. Zarrok's journey was a solitary one. His footsteps, heavy and slow, were the only sound in the deadened world, each one a mournful beat upon the drum of the earth. The path he walked was one of decay. Skeletal trees reached for the sky like desperate hands, the ground beneath them a mosaic of cracks and fissures. The smaller inhabitants of this wasteland had long since succumbed. A tiny bird, its feathers ruffled and its body frail from thirst, spiraled from the sky, collapsing onto the searing sand, its final breath a silent puff of dust. Zarrok watched, a silent, helpless giant. A deep, resonating sigh escaped him, a sound filled with the weight of ages and the pain of being a passive observer to so much suffering. His immense power was a prison, unable to mend the fragile life that withered before his very eyes. His lonely trek eventually led him to a place of faint hope, or perhaps, its final resting place. A small lake, or what was left of it, shimmered weakly in the distance. Its edges were a cracked, muddy scar on the land, and the little water that remained was a shallow, stagnant pool, a ghost of the oasis it once was. Zarrok stood at its edge, his colossal form reflected in the murky surface. He looked into the water, but he saw more than just his own reflection. He saw the memory of life, the ghost of a vibrant past, and the bleakness of a future without water. A profound stillness came over him, a deep contemplation. Then, a shift, a spark ignited in his ancient eyes, transforming his sorrow into a look of unyielding resolve. His gaze hardened, his posture straightened. He had made a decision. With a roar that cracked the sky, Zarrok slammed his powerful claws into the hardened earth beside the dying lake. The impact was cataclysmic. Tons of sand and rock flew into the air, and the ground convulsed as if struck by a meteor. He didn't stop. Again and again, his mighty limbs tore into the planet's crust, digging deeper and deeper. The sun beat down, turning his stone-like hide into a furnace, but he worked on. Dust and sweat mingled, caking his body, but his determination never wavered. Day bled into night, and night into day. The pile of excavated earth grew into a small mountain beside him. He was a force of nature, a living excavator driven by a singular, desperate purpose. Exhaustion etched lines onto his face. His movements grew slower, but the fire in his eyes burned brighter than ever. He would not fail, and then, it happened. Deep within the chasm he had carved, there was a new sound. Not the grating of rock, but a low subterranean gurgle. A moment later, with a sudden, explosive burst, fresh, clear water erupted from the depths. It shot upwards like a geyser, a fountain of pure life in the heart of the dead land. The water poured out, cool and clear, washing over the parched ground, carving new pathways through the sand. It flowed with an unstoppable energy, a torrent of salvation rushing towards the empty lake bed. The lights seemed to soften, the harsh glare of the sun mellowing into a gentle, hopeful glow as the water level began to rise. Slowly, but surely filling the cracked basin, turning the murky puddle back into a crystal-clear oasis. The effect was instantaneous and miraculous. Where the life-giving water touched the soil, a transformation began. Tiny green shoots, timid at first, pushed their way through the cracks in the earth. The skeletal trees nearby seemed to drink in the new moisture, and slowly, miraculously, buds appeared on their brittle branches, soon unfurling into lush, green leaves. The desert, for so long a monochrome expanse of brown and yellow, was blushing with green. From beyond the horizon, life returned. Animals, drawn by a primal instinct, journeyed back to the oasis. Herds of creatures, unseen for generations, gathered at the water's edge to drink, and in the sky, birds returned, their joyous calls replacing the oppressive silence. The air was filled with the song of life renewed. Through it all, Zarrok stood as a silent witness. The titan of destruction had become the wellspring of life. He watched the deer drink cautiously from the lake, saw the birds build nests in the newly leafed trees, and felt the small creatures scurry around his feet. A profound peace settled over him, smoothing the lines of sorrow from his face. The loneliness that had haunted him for centuries began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of connection, of belonging. The animals, sensing his gentle nature, moved around him without fear. He was no longer a monster to be feared, but a part of their world, a protector. He had found his purpose, not in his immense strength, but in his capacity to give. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm, golden glow across the transformed landscape, Zarrok lay down to rest beside the lake he had created. The desert was no longer a wasteland but a vibrant, thriving ecosystem, a tapestry of green and blue under a painted sky. Animals of all kinds lived in harmony, their lives intertwined with the gentle giant who watched over them. He was their silent guardian, a mountain of life in a paradise of his own making. In the quiet of the twilight, he finally understood. True strength was never about the power to destroy, but the will to create and nurture life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. In the heart of an endless, scorching desert, where the sun beats down without mercy, silence reigns. The wind whispers across a sea of sand, a world forgotten by time. Heat shimmers above the dunes, and in the distance a storm gathers, a swirling titan of sand and fury. The ground trembles, not from the coming storm, but from something far older, something stirring beneath the surface. Then, the world breaks open. Sand erupts as a creature of impossible scale emerges. This is Zarrok, a titan from a lost age. His body is a mountain range of muscle and ancient stone-hard skin. He is a relic of a time when giants walked the earth, and his shadow falls like a curtain across the vast expanse. But when you look into his eyes, you see not a monster, but an ocean of loneliness, a sorrow as ancient as the rocks themselves. He is a king without a kingdom, a god in an empty temple. With heavy, thundering steps, Zarrok wanders his desolate domain. Each footfall is a lament, echoing in the suffocating silence. He is the last of his kind, a solitary figure against an unforgiving horizon. The desert around him is a graveyard. Skeletal trees reach for a sky that offers no relief. The earth itself is cracked and thirsty. He sees a small bird, its wings too weak to carry it further, flutter and fall to the burning sand. Zarrok watches his immense form still, a statue of helpless power. There is a deep ache in his ancient heart, a sorrow for the life he cannot save. He possesses the power to shatter mountains, yet he cannot conjure a single drop of rain. His journey leads him to a final, desperate puddle of life, the last lake. It is a ghost of what it once was, its edges a spiderweb of cracks, the remaining water a mere whisper of hope. The air hangs heavy with the scent of dust and endings. Zarrok stands at its edge, his colossal form reflected in the murky surface. He looks at his own reflection, at the dying water, and a decision forms within him, solid and unshakable as the stone of his hide. A new light ignites in his ancient eyes, a spark of fierce determination. He will not let this last flicker of life be extinguished. With the roar that shakes the very foundations of the desert, Zarrok strikes the earth. His claws, each one the size of a great tree, tear into the baked ground. Tons of sand and rock fly into the air as he begins to dig, a force of nature remaking the world. The ground shudders with each powerful swipe. Days bleed into nights, the sun and moon bearing witness to his relentless labor. He is a machine of pure will, fueled by a desperate hope. Dust coats his immense body, and exhaustion begins to weigh on his mighty limbs, but his spirit does not falter. He digs deeper, and deeper still, searching for the lost heartbeat of the world. And then, it happens. A change, a trickle of moisture from deep within the wound he has carved in the earth. Suddenly, with a gushing roar, a spring of pure, clean water bursts forth from the ground. It is a miracle, a torrent of life that washes over the dry, cracked land. The water is a liquid jewel, sparkling under the desert sun as it flows, carving new paths through the sand, racing towards the dying lake. Slowly, miraculously, the lake begins to fill. The cracks at its edge disappear, submerged beneath the rising tide of cool, clear water. The light itself seems to soften, the harsh glare of the sun mellowing into a golden, hopeful glow. The water is a promise, and the desert responds. From the newly softened soil, tiny green shoots push their way towards the sky. The skeletal trees, long thought dead, begin to bud, their branches unfurling with tender new leaves. A rustle in the distance, then another. From beyond the horizon, the animals return. Herds of creatures, their ribs showing from long thirst, are drawn to the scent of water. They come to the edge of the newly reborn lake and drink deeply, their long journey finally over. Above, the sky is no longer empty. Birds, once scattered by the drought, now wheel and circle in joyful flight, their songs replacing the desolate silence. Zarrok stands sentinel, a silent, unmoving mountain. He watches the transformation he has wrought. He sees the green returning, hears the sounds of life, feels the pulse of the world beating strong once more. A profound peace settles over him, smoothing the ancient lines of sorrow on his face. The animals, once terrified of any shadow, now move around his colossal legs without fear. They seem to understand. He is not a destroyer, but their savior. A small, curious creature even nuzzles against his stone-like hide, and Zarrok remains perfectly still, a gentle guardian. As the sun begins to set, casting long, golden rays across the landscape, the desert is unrecognizable. It is a tapestry of green and gold, teeming with life, centered around the crystal-clear lake. Zarrok lies down to rest, his great body curled protectively beside the water he gifted to the world. He is no longer alone. He is the heart of this new oasis, the silent guardian of the life he chose to create. In the quiet of the twilight, surrounded by the gentle sounds of a world reborn, Zarrok has finally found his home. His true strength was not in his size or his power to destroy, but in his will to give life.